Here we are talking about your thyroid hormones T3, T4, TSH, and then also we are talking about your endocrine hormones FSH. There are many other endocrine hormones, but I've picked out FSH only, and then of course I'm going to discuss T3, T4 and TSH. If you have got your report, fertility hormonal report, and your results are actually not understandable to you, you are not understanding what T3 means, what 1.0 means, what 1.0 for T4 means, you are not understanding what TSH means, then this video is for you. I'm called Gerard Massa and I'm a global fertility coach. I can answer all your questions about fertility. So from whichever part of the world you are watching this video from, you can ask your questions down below in the comments. I'll be able to answer all your fertility hormone lab test result questions. So specifically, the interpretation of these results is going to be based on the World Health Organization, reference ranges. This is according to the WHO. There are different bodies that actually have reference ranges, and these can actually differ from whichever body, whichever reference ranges you are using to interpret your report. But in this particular scenario, I'm following the World Health Organization stipulated guidelines on the reference ranges. So if you have your report and your T3 hormone is 1.0, your T4 hormone is 1.0, your TSH, okay, your TSH hormone is 10.00, and then your endocrine evaluation or your endocrine hormones are also specifically FSH. Your FSH hormone is also 100. Then you could actually follow this video. One thing you have to know is that the thyroid gland is that small gland which is located just in front of your trachea. It is a small gland. It's a butterfly-shaped gland which is located in front of your neck, and specifically, it's a gland which is responsible for releasing three hormones. That is T3 hormone, T4 hormone, and another hormone known as calcitonin. Calcitonin hormone is a hormone that is responsible for regulating the calcium levels, controlling your calcium levels in the body. So in this particular case, there's no calcitonin hormone. We are talking about T3, T4, and TSH. T3 hormone, also known as triiodothyronine. T3 hormone, also known as triiodothyronine, is a hormone among the thyroid hormones, which is actually the active form of your thyroid hormones. And specifically, you realize that in many cases, your body converts T4 to T3. T3 hormone, triiodothyronine, is the active form of the thyroid hormone, and it's actually what your body uses. In this report, she scored 1.0. The normal is 70 up to 200. Remember, I'm following the World Health Organization. If the normal is 70 up to 200 nanograms per deciliter, and she scored 1.0, what does this mean? They've told you that the normal is supposed to be 70 up to 200, and you have 1.0 of T3. It simply means that your thyroid gland is releasing low levels of the T3 hormone. In other words, it is underperforming. It's not performing according to the expected results. They've told you that the normal is supposed to be 70 up to 200. The normal is supposed to be 70 up to 200, and you have scored 1.0. 1.0, okay? This simply means that your thyroid gland is underperforming. It's not releasing sufficient levels of the T3 hormone. The next is the T4 hormone. T4 hormone specifically. So thanks a lot for being patient. I was talking about T3, and I said that if the normal is supposed to be 70 up to 200, and your report has given 1.0 as the result, then it simply means that the levels of T3 hormone are very low. The normal is supposed to be 70 to 200. This means that your thyroid gland is underperforming. If the levels of T4 hormone, also known as tetraiodothyronine, if the levels are also 1.0 and the normal is supposed to be 4.5, up to 11.5 according to the World Health Organization, WHO. If the norm is supposed to be 4.5, up to 11.5, and you've scored 1.0, this also means that the levels of your T4 hormone are low. I'll repeat again. According to the report, she scored 1.0 of T3 and 1.0 of T4. This simply means that her thyroid gland is underproducing the two hormones, T3 and T4. There are many conditions that could actually bring about this. These conditions could originate in the thyroid gland itself, or they could actually be originating from the brain, a particular part in the brain known as the pituitary gland. Her TSH levels, TSH stands for thyroid stimulating hormone, TSH, was 10.00. The normal is supposed to be 0.4 up to 4.0 milli international units per liter. Milli international units per liter. That is according to the WHO. If the normal is supposed to be 0.4 up to 4.0 and you score 10.00, this means that the maximum is 4 but you've scored 10. This simply means that you've gone beyond the normal. It means that your TSH levels are very high. Okay, if the normal is 0.4 to 4.0, it means that your TSH levels, thyroid stimulating hormone, is actually very high. TSH hormone, thyroid stimulating hormone, remember I said that it comes from the brain itself. It comes from the anterior pituitary gland. There's a hormone that is actually also supposed to control the production of TSH. There's a hormone, a particular hormone, that is responsible for telling your pituitary gland, that small part in the brain, telling it that, you know what, you release TSH. That hormone is known as the thyrotropin releasing hormone, TRH, thyrotropin releasing hormone. It is released from the hypothalamus, also a small part in your brain. It travels to the pituitary gland, and then it tells the pituitary gland to release TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. And when TSH has been released, it travels also in the blood to your thyroid gland. Remember these two hormones? TSH comes to the thyroid gland, and then it tells it that, you know what, you produce T3, T4, and calcitonin. If your TSH is high, 10.0, it simply means that your brain is actually sending TSH to the thyroid gland. Your brain is sending TSH to the thyroid gland, telling it that, you know what, produce T3, T4. Why? Because maybe there are many functions that need to be done, including the control of your weight, the control of your saturation, the control of your periods, the control of your ovulation, plus other processes, okay? And even your blood pressure. But as TSH is reaching your thyroid gland, okay? As TSH is reaching your thyroid gland, the thyroid gland is not responding to the effects of TSH. Thus, the thyroid gland is underproducing T3 and T4. Let me repeat. The report simply means that your brain is sending TSH to your thyroid gland, but the thyroid gland is not responding. It is underperforming. It is under-responding. And instead of sending normal levels of T3, which are supposed to be 70 to 200, it is sending T3. It is releasing T3, in levels of 1.0 instead of 70 to 200. This means that there's a problem. The thyroid gland is not responding to the effects of TSH. What will the brain do? The brain will begin saying, what is happening with the thyroid gland? Let me, I can give an example of maybe an order has been sent, maybe in the army, and then an order has been sent by the commanding officer that, you know what, go and do ABCD. And then the officers on the ground, they refuse the order. They say, no, we're not going to do it, okay? The commander will actually bring in more force, okay? And it could not actually be good for the officers who have refused to do the orders. So in this particular case, that was an example, a comparison. In this particular case, your brain is sending TSH to your thyroid gland, but the thyroid gland has refused. It's not responding to the effects of TSH. Otherwise, if it was responding to the effects of TSH, then the T3 would be between 70 to 200. Hope you see this. Okay? If it was responding, if your thyroid gland was responding to the effects of TSH, then your T4 would be between 4.5 up to 11.5. Okay? If the brain was, if the thyroid gland was responding, then the levels would be between the normal. Causes of this could actually be due to maybe issues in the thyroid gland. These could include infections. They could include swellings. We call these multinodular swellings or multinodular goiter, and it could also be due to other causes. Okay, your doctor will be able to do further testing, including an ultrasound scan of the thyroid, also known as the thyroid ultrasound scan, plus other tests, okay, like the iodine test, to really rule out what could be causing, making your thyroid gland to underproduce T3 and T4. As I was saying, once T3 and T4 is, once the thyroid gland refuses or underproduces T3 and T4, what the brain will do, it will send more TSH, thus the 10.00. So in this particular report, the brain sent normal TSH in the beginning, that is 0.4 up to 4.0. It went to your thyroid gland. The thyroid gland refused the effect of TSH. It did not really respond, and then of course the brain, what it did, it said, okay, let me go beyond 4, let me go to 5, let me go to 6, let me go to 7, let me go to TSH rising gradually. Also we call this doubling. Then it reached up to 10. I hope you understand this part of the thyroid gland. You can ask me the questions in the comments. I'll be able to reply. I'm called Gerard Massa, and I'm a global fertility coach. You can ask me your questions. I'll be able to answer your questions about fertility hormonal test results. The next is FSH. Okay, this is under endocrine evaluation. In this report, she scored, her FSH was 100 international units per milliliter. This is according to WHO, once again, World Health Organization. But according to the reference ranges of WHO, if the lady is in the follicular phase, okay, if she's interpreting this report, or if you are interpreting this report and you are in your follicular phase, the normal is supposed to be 2.5 to 10.2. Follicular phase simply means that the lady has just finished her periods, okay? If you have just finished your periods today, those 4 to 5 days from the first day you saw your periods to when you have actually just finished. Basically, if you are in your periods, plus those first 7 days, other countries, they could say your periods, okay, the days of the periods, plus the next at least 5 days. The normal, we call this the follicular phase, immediately after periods. Those first days, we call them the follicular phase. The normal is supposed to be 2.5 up to 10.0. You'll excuse me with the follicular phase. The follicular phase is actually the time you see your periods plus the first half of your menstrual cycle. Basically, the first half of your menstrual cycle is the follicular phase. The middle part, that is, we call that the mid-cycle, also known as the ovulatory phase. And then, of course, the last 2 weeks of your periods is what we call the luteal phase. Okay. So, according to WHO, during the follicular phase, the normal is supposed to be 2.5 up to 10.0. And then during the mid-cycle phase, okay, mid-cycle peak, basically this is when you are ovulating, normal is supposed to be 3.4 up to 33.4. The units are here, international units per liter. And then, according to WHO, if you are in your luteal phase, immediately after you have finished your ovulation, the normal is supposed to be 1.5 up to 9.1. And then, if you are pregnant, your FSH levels are supposed to be at least less than 0.3 IU per liter, international units per liter. If you are in your post-menopausal phase, you have finished menopause, okay, that's around 45 years. In other countries, it could actually be 50 years. In other countries, it could be higher. But if you have finished seeing your periods, if you are in your menopause and you have past menopause, the normal FSH is supposed to be 23 up to 116. 23 up to 116.3 international units per liter. In this particular scenario, she actually did the test when she was in her follicular phase. I didn't specify that. She did her test when she was in her follicular phase. She had just finished her periods, okay? 4 days specifically, that's when she did the test, okay? I just transferred the results on paper for learning purposes. This video is for educational purposes only, okay? Watch it, learn something, and then you go to your doctor, discuss more about your management plan, okay? So, since she did this test when she was in her follicular phase, they've told us that the follicular phase, the normal is supposed to be 2.5 up to 2.5 up to 10.2 international units per liter. This is according to WHO. So if the normal is 2.5 up to 10.2 and she scored 100, what does this mean? She's in her follicular phase. She has just finished her periods. It simply means that the brain was actually sending FSH in the beginning. It was within the normal 2.5 up to 10.0 follicular phase. Normal was supposed to be 2.5 up to 10.2. This could actually have started at the time of menarche, also known as the time when she first saw her periods. But maybe something happened along the way. And maybe she ended up with this result. What could have happened is that when she reached her adult life, she got married, something could have happened to the particular part in the brain which is supposed to release the FSH. FSH, follicle stimulating hormone, it's a hormone that is responsible for making your eggs to grow. It's a hormone responsible for your eggs growing from the first phase, also known as the primary phase, and then to your second phase, also known as the secondary stage. The eggs begin as something very small, and then they grow, they increase in size under the effects of FSH, follicle stimulating hormone. It's a hormone which is released from the pituitary gland, okay? After getting communication or command from the hypothalamus, another part in your brain, the hypothalamus will release a hormone known as gonadotropin releasing hormone, GnRH, and that hormone will go to your pituitary gland, and then when GnRH reaches your pituitary gland will release the FSH. FSH will pour into your bloodstream to your gonads, also known as your eggs, and then your eggs will actually grow immediately you finish your periods. The normal is supposed to be 2.5 up to 10.2 according to the WHO. So if the brain was sending excess amounts of FSH, okay, it's in 100, then it simply means that at first the hormone was within the normal, it reached your eggs, the eggs were also stubborn. Remember, we were talking about the thyroid gland being stubborn. So in this particular case, FSH came in from your brain, specifically the anterior pituitary gland, but when it reached your eggs, the eggs were stubborn, they were not responding to the effects of FSH. What will the brain do? It will say, let me send more. It sent more, and it moved from 2.5 maximum, it moved from a maximum of 10.2, and it went up to 100. And this is evidenced by this test result. She scored 100. So this simply means that the brain is sending excess FSH, but the eggs are not responding. In this particular report, something is missing. The hormone for knowing about the response of the eggs, the hormone for knowing about your egg reserves. It's also known as the AMH hormone, anti-Mullerian hormone. I will talk about it in the next video. But you could not actually, don't be surprised to get the AMH result if at all she went ahead and did the AMH test result. The AMH test, don't be surprised to get when AMH is in 0 point something, maybe 0.01, maybe 0.2, 0.3. Something could actually be happening to her eggs. Though, of course, she will be able to discuss more with her doctor. This video was for educational purposes only. So, I'm called Gerard Massa, and I'm a fertility coach, global fertility coach. You can ask me your questions from whichever part of the country you are watching this video from, whether you are in India, whether you are in Nigeria, whether you are in East Africa, okay, Kenya, whether you are in South Africa, whether you are in the UK, and you would like to have me as your fertility coach, guide you in terms of understanding your hormones, guide you on your journey, TTC journey. You are trying to get pregnant, but things are not working out. You are not understanding your hormones, and maybe you need someone to guide you, advise you that now you can do A, B, C, D to stabilize this. You can do this to stabilize this. Of course, complementing on your doctor's advice. I'm not going to replace your doctor's advice. I'm going to complement, teach you about fertility, you understand your fertility journey much more better, and even give you my recommendations on how best you can move along your fertility journey, your TTC journey. I'm here. You can always ask me your questions down below in the comments. You can also join my fertility coaching sessions. I'll be able to share my Zoom link in case you send me a message on my WhatsApp numbers. They are here. Okay, then once again, this has been great. I'm really so humbled for for spending some time with you. I hope you have learned something in this video lesson today from whichever part of the country you are watching this from, whichever part of the world you are watching this from. Let me see you in the next video. I'm called Gerard Massa, and God bless. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.